Good afternoon and welcome to Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between. I am your host, Rose October, and I thank you for joining me yet another Sunday. Thank you. As customary, I tell you a little bit about arts, culture, and Thing in Between. This is a program that features individuals who are gatekeepers of our arts and culture. They are not only performing artists, but also teachers, advocates, and scholars who focus on the preservation of the arts and culture. When arts is mentioned, it is being referred to as different art forms, such as visual, applied, and performing arts. Visual arts examples are painting, sculpting, filming. Applied arts examples are, as in designing, building or constructing a project. Fashion designing is considered applied arts. And as you can see, the piece that I'm wearing today speaks to the different types of patterns and fabrics that the fashion designer would use, the way that today I am highlighting Louise Robinson, Grenadian designer. This is her piece that I'm wearing. The way that she has cut the cloth, layered the patterns, and what do we have? A lovely constructed piece based on her applied artistry. Jewelry designing would be considered applied arts. The way that the jewelry designer works with materials such as wood, plastic, metal, silver, and gold, in addition to working with various types of stones. Furniture designing, as you can tell over to my left shoulder, your right, that piece of wooden representation of the Guyana flag, the ways that Jonathan Locke worked with the various types of woods, the way that the woods are cut and designed. How about performing arts? Examples of performing arts would be music, theater, opera, drama, singing, stand-up comedy. Did I say music? Did I say music? I'm saying music because of the musician who is with us today. And of course, I have to mention dance when I talk about performing arts. The middle part of the name of the program is culture, arts, culture, and thing in between. When culture is mentioned, it generally means the way of life for a particular group of people. So for this program, it is inclusive to mean the various groups of individuals that embrace ways of life. In other words, looking at attitudes and behaviors. What is important to note, though, is that as culture is mentioned, I'm really looking at how practices are passed from one generation to another. Thing in between, the last part of the name of the program, arts, culture, and thing in between. This has to do with life's issues that affect the execution of the arts and cultural practices. This involves both positive and negative experiences that become part of the creative process. Today's guest, wears the title of a performing artist with variations on that theme. But let me share his bio. Phillip Nichols has been in the music business for 45 years. This legendary musician is a keyboardist, entrepreneur, arranger, producer, and audio engineer who hails from Georgetown, Guyana. He received his education at Carmel Roman Catholic School and Charlestown rather, secondary school respectively. Philip's mother, a school teacher, had an appreciation for music. At 6 years old, she exposed him to classical music through private tutoring. As a young music student, he learned both theory and practical aspects of music. The theory was based on the Royal School of Music, and the practical was based on concepts of Trinity College of Music, both based in London, England. Before leaving secondary school at the age of 14, Philip had already embraced professional playing in bands. As a young musician, Philip was simultaneously involved in many projects. In 1975, his mother took him to join the National Youth Band and Youth Division on Brickdam in Georgetown. It is with this band that he played the keyboard for the first time in a band setting. In 1976, he moved on to Sound Dimension Band, where he continued playing the keyboard and took over from Loris Holland, a respected musician. Following Sound Dimension, in 1977, Philip became a founding member of the band After Dark Movements. He remained with After Dark Movements until 1979, when the band was disbanded. Other bands that have benefited from his expertise as a keyboardist were Dominators Band, Night People, Silhouettes, and Telestars. He also credits musicians Aubrey Cummings, George Reed, Cornel Vera, Pat Thompson, Aubrey Roberts, and Jive Paris, all from whom he's gained knowledge about the foundation and ethics of the music business, along with life's lessons. In 1979, Philip temporarily left Guyana for Barbados, where he had a brief stint of playing with a band. This experience was short-lived because he became homesick. Upon his return to Guyana in 1980, he was employed as a keyboard player by the late Neil Chan of Solo Sounds International. He remained with this band until 1984, when he migrated from Guyana to the United States. It should be noted that Philip's opportunity to visit the United States in 1984, when he was a keyboard player of the Roddy Fraser Jazz Ensemble, was presented. The ensemble played at an engagement at the US Embassy hosted by the Honorable Ed Franco, the then ambassador to the United States in Guyana. This was a significant moment in Philip's life because he approached the ambassador and explained his desire to visit the United States. A meeting was arranged between Philip and the ambassador, and Philip received a letter to go to the embassy. And as a result of this, Philip was granted a 6-month visa to visit the United States. Needless to say, the rest was history. After arriving in the United States, from 1985 to 1987, Philip landed his first job as an usher at Radio Keat Ophium, RKO, Scene 42 in Times Square, New York. While working at Scene 42, he freelanced as a musician, playing with bands such as Essence, a Barbadian band, Ninja International, a Guyanese band, and Trinidadian bands Brooklyn Connection, Piper's Connection, Sunshine, and Sparrow Troubadours. From 1987 to 1995, Philip changed employment and worked as a theater manager with Scene Place Orleans, a Canadian-based movie company known for its theater chains. All the while, he continued playing music with various bands. Philip has always wanted to own his own business. And in 1995, when he left Cineplex Odeon, He became an entrepreneur and established his company, Phil Gloton Recording Studio, located in Brooklyn, New York. He also began his journey as an audio engineer, capturing tonality and consistent sounds when making music. In 1991 to present, Phillip has been an arranger. He has arranged Parang music for Straker Records and worked with Trinidadian artists Prince Unique, Singing Francine, Tigress, and Designer. He's also worked with independent singers such as Guyanese The Ivan, Roy Watson, Cliff Joseph, Chuck Gerard, Raphael Cameron, and Cora Williamson. American, Eddie Lovett, Jamaicans, Debbie Dobson, Don Bloom, and Michael Reed. Trinidadians, Kay Allen, Mighty Sparrow, Sugar Aloes, Explainer, Mighty Poser, Wayne Johnson, and Super Blue. This is just a short list of artists with whom he has worked, as there are many others, too numerous to mention. Also from 1991 to present, Phillip has been a producer. His work as a producer began with the song Mothers by Raphael Cameron. Phillip recognizes that being a producer gives him a chance to be creative by painting pictures through sound. His outstanding works are two CD albums, City Life in 1996 and Cool Down Jazz in 2007. A significant milestone in Phillip's life was in 2014, when he was introduced to the Angels Caribbean Band by the Mighty Sparrow. Since then, he has been one of the two keyboardists, with the other being Vinud Bisram, the band leader. Currently, and in addition to playing with Angels Caribbean Band, he plays with Lane Steinberg Band, the band that accompanies the Mighty Sparrow. Phillip's resume spans performances at many reputable venues in New York. These include Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden, Resorts World Casino, Joe's Pub, Avery Fisher Hall, Lincoln Center, Symphony Space, Brooklyn College, and Brooklyn Academy of Music. He's also graced the Oscar Peterson Hall in Canada. Phillip's work has allowed him the benefits of touring with Calypso Rose and Mighty Sparrow. Some countries toured included Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Belgium, Spain, Australia, Bermuda, Bahamas, Belize, Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Martin's, Antigua, Jamaica, Grenada, Curacao, Aruba, Trinidad, Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Canada. Phillip's passion for his work has not gone unnoticed. He has been recognized by the Ghana Cultural Association of New York, Inc. for his hard work and dedication in creating and preserving music. But before I invite Phillip Nichols, our guest today, to start our conversations, let's take a little peek at who he is. Phillip Nichols, the one and only, welcome to Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between.
Thank you for having me today. Good afternoon, everyone.
You sound so calm and poised and everything that I guess a musician is, someone who is one of the best keyboardists around.
Hmm.
I don't mean to make you blush, Philip, but how are you? How are you
I'm
doing?
I'm fine.
You fine? Well, I'm glad
Yeah,
that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. So we just watched a little clip of you. Any thoughts about those pictures?
it's just bring back a lot of memories from being young, through different time in my life and doing music in different
Mhm.
organizations.
Okay. Yeah, like. I am wondering, as an onlooker, one could have determined, and I'm guessing here, so you know, one could have determined that you were destined to become the best musician possible that you can, given your mother's proactivity in exposing you to music at the age of 6. Mom exposed you to music at the age of 6. Let's talk about that. What significantly do you remember as a young music student?
Um, I always like felt like I really love playing the keyboard and playing music. And I remember one time I just started to play like if I used to play in a different life. And then when I tried to do it again, it never happened. And my mother started to push me along that direction. Yeah.
So if I am receiving this the way that I can't figure any other way, this must be a gift.
Yes, I should think so.
You should think so.
Yes.
So aside from just playing stuff that cannot be replicated as a young student, mom paying attention to that, you getting the exposure to music, do you remember what you were thinking in getting the opportunity to go to music classes? Do you remember what that was like?
Yes, I was very, very happy. I remember going to music lessons instead of 3 days a week, in which was paid for. I used to go to 5 days just to learn as much as possible. Yeah.
Wow. You know, that is so unique, and mom needs to be applauded. The
Yeah.
reason I say that is most people who come on the program as artists, they would say, most of them, they would say that their parents did not see the arts as anything fruitful. You know, parents wanted their children back in the day to become a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, and those professions that they thought were reputable. Hardly you would hear stories whereby a child was given the opportunity through the parent to tap in to that child's artistry. So I commend mommy because
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we are getting an opportunity to celebrate you
Yeah.
today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, what instruments were you playing when you were going to music lessons, so to speak?
Uh, this is a piano.
Oh, it was a
It's piano.
piano.
Yeah, piano. That's the fun foundation instrument of learning.
Okay. Now, is that your foundational instrument of learning? No, my ignorance will seep out.
Yes, yes,
Is it
it
your
is.
foundation
Yeah, it is.
instrument of learning, or it is the foundational
Well, at
instrument
least
of
for
learning
me.
when it comes to
For me.
keyboarding?
For me.
For you, okay, all right.
Mhm.
Just want to make sure. No, you got your first job as an early teenager. How did this work for you?
Hmm. I remember uh, going to school, primary school, and I have to go and play in different bands. Like I play with different bands and have to get up to go to school the next day tired. But I used to enjoy playing that. and the money was kind of interested at the time, you know.
So give me a little more. So you're playing out with these bands as a teenager.
Right.
I guess the big people would say you're smelling yourself, you know, because you're making a little money too. I'm not sure if mommy's monitoring the money that you're making at this point, but you're going out, you're making money, you're kind of living the life of a grown person
Yeah.
because because you're going to bed late at night.
Actually, used to get home like probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Some after some gigs, and have to get up to school. And but at that time, my mother was a teacher, and she wasn't making much financially.
Mhm.
And being a musician, and I actually started to work for more than her when I started to play with like bands like After Dark
Uh-huh.
with Aubrey Cummins and
Uh-huh.
them. They started to make a lot of finance,
Uh-huh.
able to ride the school with motorbike and different stuff.
Whoa, I am loving this now. Hold on one second. You are saying, oh, your technical man is up in your face. I could see. You are saying, Philip, that you were able to supplement mom's income
Right.
to the point where you were making more than
And
mom
her,
as a that is remarkable and that is admirable because given what I mentioned earlier, right, with not the arts not seen as as a profession that brings in music or gives you any status in community and society. And here it is, as a teenager, a young teenager, a budding young man, you get the opportunity to help mom take care of. Mom really had no choice but to support. So then I got to put on another hat. If you're going home late at night, how are you making out next day to get up and go to school and functioning as an attentive student?
was a sacrifice.
Okay, tell me
And
more.
I actually was in my mother's class because she was a school teacher at Carmel.
Uh-huh,
That my first, the time I was like about 13, 14 years old.
uh-huh.
So I used to do some studying after, like in between, like in the
Mhm.
evening, in the afternoon after the gig or so.
Okay.
But during the time was had the opportunity to play with some real respectable people, and at that time in Guyana, you could make. I don't know about now. I mean, during that time,
Mhm.
you could make a lot of money in bands with
Wow.
Aubrey Cummins, and once you playing with him,
Mhm,
and there was fair people. The manager Jerry Bradford,
mhm.
there were fair people in terms of paying me as the youngest person in the band.
Yeah. And
Just my
that
opinion.
and that would have been encouraging for you too.
Yeah.
Why not as a youngster? Could you imagine? So did mom take your money? Did mom become
Sometime,
your manager, so to speak? I mean, it sounded a little
sometime,
crass the way that I put it just now.
no, no problem with that. Sometimes,
Sometimes.
yeah, it's no problem.
Now, it is fair to ask, how were you with money management as a youngster, given that
Hmm.
you're making big money?
No, I think I managed it well.
Hmm.
Was able to put aside some, spend some.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Was mom involved with the money management? Because I'm thinking you're still a minor and you're handling money more than, you're making more money than your mom.
Yeah.
So what was the relationship in terms of money management between you and mom?
Well, she used to really guide me in certain aspects and in spending and all of that.
Okay.
So never had an issue in managing it.
In managing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you one other question about mom.
Sure.
You said you were in mom's class. Did mom spoil you?
Not really.
What you got to give me more. What's not really?
Not
Did you
really.
get some passes like because you are her son?
Maybe a little of that. Maybe.
Okay. What did the other students think of you being in the same class with your mother?
Um, Probably they used to say me I'm my mom's pet. I was a
Ah,
pet child. I was the
Okay.
last child. My
okay.
mother had 7 of us. So I'm
Ah,
the last. I'm the baby in the child.
ain't nothing baby about you. Stop that.
I know. I mean, at that time.
I'm being funny because I'm the last girl. I'm the last girl and second to last child, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember growing up when people would say, "Oh, you're the baby girl. You so much want to grow up." It's like, call me baby. I know, baby, you know. But we feel ourselves. So before leaving high school, mom also got you connected with the national youth
Youth
band.
band. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that was the first time that you played in a band setting.
Yeah, that was the first time.
How was that experience for you?
Very challenging. I remember they had it was like a ministry for youth and culture. They had the choir, which was run by Edith Peters.
Hmm.
And they had a steel band, and then the band was run by a fellow by the name of Eddie Hines.
Okay.
And they had people like Lyndon Dudley, he was a guitarist. Rickford Dalgetty was one of the guitarists. Trevor Johnny was a drummer at the time.
Hmm.
I think Colin Cumberbatch. It was a very interesting time
Hmm.
to start to learn, and this was all new to me.
What was the most challenging going into a band setting for the first time as a youngster?
You got to know the songs. You have
Uh-huh.
to know knowledge of different songs.
Uh-huh.
You could be called upon if I was actually the second keyboard player,
Hmm.
and the other guy was the first keyboard player was Twiddles. His name was Twiddles, and
Even
if he
his
got
call name,
sick,
his
if
call name was Twiddles.
yeah, I can't
You know,
remember.
you Guyanese people, you Caribbean people love to give people names. Sorry about that, but tell me
Can't
about
remember his
Twiddles.
name, but he
Uh-huh.
was a good guy. Uh, so when when the first keyboard player is sick and they call upon you,
Mhm.
you got to know these songs.
Mhm.
Got to have a third keyboard player. God was a band for youths.
Uh-huh.
It was
You
very
had to be at the
challenging.
ready.
Yeah, you have to be ready.
Now, how did your theoretical foundation help you with that experience?
It's very important. Theory in any aspect of anything is knowing the rudiments.
Hmm.
Having a better understanding of what you're doing. You know, played a very much important part.
Hmm. So when did you know that? But before I ask you this, let me ask you, other than music, did you do anything else as a child? What did
No,
you kick ball? Did you play cricket? Did
just
you
music.
just music?
Hmm.
So if I were to sit here and throw a ball at you and say catch, would you be able to catch it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but you just were not interested in the sports.
No,
Wow. Did you feel as though you missed out on anything?
no,
Did your friend say to you, man, what's up with you? Or something to the like. Let's go play cricket.
no. I played a little bit of cricket and
Uh-huh.
football, but not like music. The amount of time I spent with music.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So this question here is very reflective. I want you to take pause for a bit. I'm wondering, now that you are grown, when you look back, when did you know that you wanted to own your own music business?
Hmm. When you're pretty young, you don't know what would happen in the future. And being a musician in Guyana, you don't really think that large of owning a music business. 'Cause I always wanted to have a Fender Rhodes piano in Guyana. You can buy that. You can get it. But when you come over here
Mhm.
and start to work, you buy certain things. Then is when you start to realize that you could do certain things like own a studio, a keyboard. Most of the bands in Guyana, they have a manager that provides that,
Uh-huh.
our owner.
Mhm.
So
So is it fair to ask, Philip, that back then,
mhm,
most band members were satisfied with being band members? Is it safe to say that?
I think so.
You think so? Based
From
on
my
your
point of view,
say that again?
from my point of view,
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. And that's
yeah,
why I said, from back then, because I'm sure that things are much different now.
mm, maybe.
I'm thinking so. And I'm seeing Gavin Mendonza, who is a musician in Guyana, just put up the sign saying that, kind of sort of in agreement. Why don't we take a quick peek at some more of you, Phil, and then we'll come back and continue talking.
Sure.
Okay. So, for those of you who are just joining us, I am your host, Rose October, and Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between, and I'm sitting here with the legendary musician, keyboardist, entrepreneur, arranger, producer, and audio engineer, Phillip Nichols. Um, I'm taking Philip down memory lane, and we're having a conversation about his humble beginnings, and I am already enjoying his journey. Philip, you have played with Solo Sounds International. I want to jump there. We'll talk about the other bands and stuff in a minute, but you have played with Solo Sounds International. And for those folks who don't know about Solo Sounds International, which is a band, an institution, I would say, in itself because of what it did, how was the experience for you?
It was very much a learning experience. I'm very excited, and Mr. Chan, he had provided us with with the opportunity to advance ourselves in music. I remember he had different people coming in, like Edith Peters for the choir training for the vocalists, and we also had Derry Atkins. He was part of the band, and was very. He had a good idea. He had a good intention, which at least I used as a good opportunity to practice. And even we were being paid to practice 8 hours, whether you play out or not. But I still used to go and push in all the extra time
Mhm,
personally to practice there because I didn't have a good keyboard at home.
mhm.
But it was a very good situation.
I have to ask you though about life's lessons learned in being a part of Solo Sounds International, led by the late Neil
Yeah,
Chan, that you mentioned. And the reason I ask that, or I'm going this way, is because if you're doing what you're doing, as in using your craft, your gift, for 8 hours a day plus some, your life is dedicated to this practice, to this institution. So there has to be something greater than just performing that's happening for you as you developed? Talk to that with us.
During that time, practicing for me was very, very important because I always feel that later on in life, I will need that practice to become a better person
Mhm.
when coming to arranging, maybe. I didn't know I was going to rearrange back then, but it was a good foundation
Mhm.
during that time. You know, it was very important.
What about camaraderie? What about building family? Because again, if you're spending 8 hours plus together, you guys are probably eating out of each other's plate, drinking out of each other's glass and cups and all of that. How about that?
Yeah, we had good relationships with. I think we had Wayne Nunes. He was a bassman. I think he's working with Billy Ocean now.
Hmm.
The leader of the band was at the time was Lyndon Dudley, Asher Collier.
Hmm.
And we had TJ, he was a drummer. We also had Derry as one of the keyboard player after a while, and Guy Bombery.
Hmm.
Aubrey DeGar, was one of the singers, and Terrence King, Melanie King,
Hmm.
too. Trombonists, I think we had Colin Aaron. Another trombonist that lives in Canada, Terrence Wood, Cyrano,
Hmm.
Alfred Bradshaw, trumpet, and Ronald Graves, saxophonist. But it was a lot of people, 17 strong,
Wow.
17 bands, men.
Wow. You said bands men.
Yeah,
Why
bands,
did
men.
you take me there? What about bands of women? What
Yeah,
about the girls? What about the
yeah.
female
Yeah, they
power?
had one singer, Melanie King. I think that was Wayne Nunes' wife after a while.
Uh-huh.
And they moved to England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is your fondest memory of Solo Songs International?
Hmm. I think it's Mashamani time. We used to have to back up a lot of artists.
Uh-huh.
And then one time they had, I think it was Smile Guyana.
Okay.
I can't remember what year was that. At
Hmm.
the,
Culture Center or Theater Guild?
no, I think that was at the National Park where they
Okay.
had flew in Super Blue,
Oh, yes.
um, Shadow, yeah,
Okay.
and Explainer.
Okay.
And that was one of the highlights of the band. Then,
How did you how did you look at the work that you have done, the work that you had done with After Dark movements and Sound Dimension, bringing that experience into solo? I mean, these are happening. You had a lot of moving parts at once. you know,
yeah.
you should have you should have included like Hustler, in a real, in a really good way. I don't mean that in a
Yeah,
bad,
I know what you mean.
you know.
But I think during the movements of these bands, you try to grasp as much as possible in terms of knowledge
Mhm.
and the application in terms of the music business.
Mhm.
You know, I learned like a lot from Aubrey Cummins in terms of punctuality,
Mhm.
and playing music, different type. Because we were a lot into Earth, Wind and Fire, Crusaders, and a lot of music that could
Mhm.
lift your ability in terms of playing an instrument.
So you guys were the local Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Right. Earth, Wind and Fire. Yeah.
You're dating yourself here, Phil.
That was then though. That was in 77.
Mm. So you've mentioned you've worked with also Dominators, Night People, Silhouette, Tell Stars, I'm sure. And please, folks, don't feel offended. Some of the old timers would say, yeah, that was back in my time, there's no time like back then, and yes, I mentioned to you Sound Dimension, I know I knew some people who were part of Sound Dimension because my brothers, some of them played steel pan and, you know, were involved with the whole band business back then. But I was young, so here and there, I caught on to some things and I missed them. But you also have paid homage by mentioning some folks. You just mentioned Aubrey Cummins. You'd mentioned in your bio George
George
Reed,
Reed, yeah.
Cornel
Cornel Vera.
Vera, Pat Thompson, Aubrey Roberts, and Jive Paris. And I really love when I hear guests pay homage. And that's really part of what this show is about, passing the baton to the next generation. And I wondered, what was it about the relationship with these men? It sounded like mentorship, right? It sounded like mentorship, but what else was happening?
During the time I was pretty young, I was like 13, 14 years, and I really looked up at those guys, and it was all learning experience for me in terms of music
Mhm.
and about life. Because, you know, being around them guys, you hear certain things, you know, you learn certain things from them.
Mhm.
And that was a advantage, I should say.
Right, right. Now, as a youngster, and this is going to be a funny question, as a youngster, working with these big guys and you're looking up to them and they're, you know, they're on whatever instrument they're playing, right? Um, what are you thinking? You feeling yourself like you're the man because you, with these musical accomplished
No,
individuals?
I try to learn as much and grasp as much, but like being around them, that some of them was drinkers and smokers. I
Uh-huh.
never smoke or drink in my life.
Okay,
Never, never.
okay.
And I think the good part of me that I
Uh-huh.
am happy that I never drink
Uh-huh.
or smoke. To each
I,
his own.
you know what? And that's a good point that you made, that you're making. Why I'm saying that? Yes, to each his own. But also, there is this stereotyping of musicians that all they do is party, drink, smoke, and then do it all over again the next day, you know? So it's good to hear that you made your own choices. And it's not to say that because somebody would have a couple of drinks or they smoke,
No,
that
no,
it takes away from who they are.
right,
Because, again, like you said, I'll just borrow that, to each his own. It doesn't take away from the craft.
right.
And that's important. And I am sure that with mommy watching you cross-eye or from the corners of our eyes, you can even think about drinking and smoking even if you wanted to. But I'm glad to hear that, you know, that you have pretty much erased what is considered a stereotype. And I have to tell you too, you know, I am chatting with you right now about your humble beginnings as a musician and your accomplishments as a musician. And I have to tell you that I admire your calm right now. I have to tell you that.
I
You know,
appreciate
you're like the cool dude. It's like no big deal, you know, and here I am over there on the other side. Yeah, let's go, let's do it, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm just crazy like that. But I do admire calm, and I'll speak to this in a minute. That will probably make you blush because it's all good. It's my observation that I'm making as we chat. But let's take another peek at some more of who you are, Phil, and then we'll come back and talk some more. How about that?
Sure.
Okay. Nichols. For those of you who joined us late, I'm sitting with legendary musician, keyboardist, entrepreneur, arranger, producer, and audio engineer, Phil Nichols. So, Phil, we just saw some pictures in that slideshow with you and Mighty Sparrow primarily, and with your buddies from Angels Caribbean Band, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I want to ask you about going back to kind of humble beginnings in terms of when you migrated. So you migrated in 1984.
Right, November 1984, yeah.
1984, right?
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, I am fascinated about your migration plan, your story, because I just mentioned before we took a peek at some of the slideshow with you and your colleagues, I just mentioned your calm disposition. And I am trying to imagine the young Phillip Nichols walking up to the then Ambassador Franco and having a conversation with him after you would have played as a member of the Roddy Fraser jazz ensemble for the, an affair at the U.S. Embassy, you walking up to the then ambassador and saying, what are you saying to him?
Actually, I approached Roddy. Roddy was the leader of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, I want to speak to the ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
And he went over and he spoke. And he introduced me as a keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I really wanted to come to America. And that's the first time I was like showing off, like, and so he said, okay, he was drinking, he could come into my office on Monday. I don't know. Well, so I went on there the Monday. This was the Saturday we played, and went to him the Monday afternoon. So he gave me a letter. So I went into the embassy. They were by Main and I think Middle Street. Mm-hmm. And I showed the security guard the letter, and he called me in. So they called one other person, and then they called me. I spent like less than 5 minutes there. So they said, just leave your passport. And that was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
That was it?
That was it.
So you were told to leave your passport. Obviously, you know what that means. You get the visa. And you go back and you pick up the visa. Are you doing the happy dance now?
It was cool.
It was cool?
It was
no. So you have the visa in your hand and you're thinking, what? Did you expect this to happen so fast this way? What are your thoughts as you're holding this visa in your passport?
You feel good because I'd applied, I think, twice before and was denied. Mm-hmm. So it was cool.
What about plans for traveling? What are you thinking? You got to give me more about, okay, it was cool. Yeah, we know that. But I applied twice before, didn't get through, but here I am. Aside from this belief that it happened so quickly, it happened and happened so quickly. What are your thoughts about plans now to travel?
Well, actually, I was very close with an aunt of mine. She's deceased now. And we communicated, and I came up here in 84, November, 1984. I think I got a visa around July or June or sometime. It was a few months lapse in the visa. So I couldn't let it go.
So you got here and you landed your first job at Cine 42.
42 and 42nd Street there.
42nd Street, Times Square.
You
were just thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
I got that job from actually one of the members from Solo, Asher Collier.
Okay.
Then Dudley was a manager there.
Uh-huh.
So that was a contact.
Yeah, you Caribbean people look out for each other, don't you?
Yeah, so I started to work there.
Uh-huh. Now you work there as an usher.
Yeah. And
what did you have to know as an usher?
Oh, you have to sit the patrons.
Uh-huh.
You have to make certain the aisles clean in the theater and the intermission.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be a doorman tearing tickets
Okay.
or concessionist.
Were you thinking, oh, I hope no Guyanese comes by and sees me doing this?
Oh no, it's just a job. It's a job. I mean,
It
you're
was-
glad you get a job.
Right.
Matter. And I'm
Okay.
actually there are a lot of Guyanese there. It was a Guyanese joint.
Of course, if a Guyanese is running stuff, you know, like if a Trini is running stuff, you're gonna find a lot of Trini there. Like if it's a Jammy running stuff, there's gonna be a lot of Jammies there because Caribbean people generally, you know, or I
Yeah.
should say the immigrant community on a serious note, usually look out for like-minded folks. Now, you worked at as a theater manager also
Right.
for Cineplex Odeon.
Yeah. Actually, I became a manager for that company before I left for Cineplex. I was a manager for the Times Square, the Apollo,
Okay.
and the Liberty Theater briefly, maybe a year or so. Then I transferred to Cineplex Odeon. That was a Canadian-based company.
So how long you spent roughly working in that whole theater industry? Roughly.
Like 85 to 95.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Okay.
10 years.
Wow. Wow, that's a
But
nice
then,
one.
yeah, but in between, I still, the key is to keep playing and keep moving around.
Right.
So once people hear you, you some reasonable, they will hire you.
Right. So let me ask you about that. Because while you're working in the theater industry, so to speak, for 10 years, you're freelancing as a musician.
Right.
Right? And you just said the reason you were freelancing is so that you can not just keep your skills, you know, updated and nice and ready, but that maybe somebody would hear you, you know.
Yeah, you can have the best talent in your home. Nobody don't know you. You're very talented at home.
That's right.
I know a lot of musicians that very talented, but they only play at home.
Right. And, you know, and that's an important point because especially as immigrants coming from different systems, there has to be a changed mentality with how one sells himself or herself as a product, especially when it comes to talent. And I get it, what you just said. You know, the person could be the best player, the best performer, but if you're at home and nobody knows about that. Nobody knows about that. So you were playing. Now, I'm curious because we had this conversation before this interview. You mentioned something about keyboard, piano, synthesizer, and organ, right?
Right.
And this is where my ignorance comes through.
Okay.
And I am owning it. Now, if you play something and tell me dance, I will dance.
Right.
But when it comes to like instruments, like we're talking about now, the keyboard, the organ, the synthesizer, the piano, what is the difference, if there is any? Then tell us the similarities also.
Okay. The similarities are the keys, the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
All is a keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
but the way in which you will play an organ, you don't play a piano that way. It's different techniques. And
What would be something different that you'll do on a piano versus an organ?
well, the organ have long notes.
Okay, stop. What does long notes mean?
Well, it resound for a period of time.
Okay, got that. Mm-hmm.
And the piano is short touch.
Okay.
Or you have a sustained pedal, it could rings out a little bit.
Okay.
But all of them, the clavinet, the organ, strings, violin, if you're playing violins with a keyboard,
Uh-huh.
certain ways in emulating what the authentic way in which they play a violin. You don't play a violin on a keyboard like an organ or a piano. It has to apply specifically that way.
So for those of us who are ignorant about what you're talking about and getting an education now, you're saying that yes, you can play wind instruments on the keyboard because it's kind of programmed in there,
Right.
and
Sample.
it probably means that you have to have some kind of knowledge also about these instruments to know how
Right. The
to
clarinet,
play.
the flute, the
Okay,
oboe, the cellos, and the way in which it's being played. It's just
okay,
edifying yourself in terms of knowing
okay.
the way in which an instrument is played, like a flute, a oboe, a cello,
Mhm.
viola, and all of that.
Okay.
Try to emulate that.
So let me ask you this about the
Mhm,
synthesizer.
mhm.
Tell us a little bit about how the synthesizer works in all of this.
Well, synthesizers are, well, the present day synthesizer are like pre-programmed in terms of like, as if you have a synth, it has a piano, it has an organ, it has a synthesizer sound, like poly sounds and different stuff.
Is that
But
the thing? I'm sorry. Is that the thing like you get that kind
right,
of song?
right, with
Okay.
oscillations and tone generators and envelope system. But most of the time when you talk about synthesizers back in like in the 80s with Joe Zamino and or Weather Report, they used to use a lot of that type of song. So
Mhm.
they still use it,
Uh-huh.
but most of them are, what you call it, you just press a button and you have a particular song. But back then you had to mix your own song, like a mini Moogs on your square tooth and to
Okay.
general. And most of the time you hear synthesizer, your mind go back then. But the today's synthesizers is like you have to have multiple instruments you could play in terms of selecting the songs.
So then I'm gonna ask you a stupid question. So Rose October, get the basics on how to use a synthesizer.
Mhm.
I can like program kind of thing together and make a song.
Yeah, you can.
I can.
If you have a sequencing keyboard or you have
Uh-huh.
a laptop with
Mhm.
program, you lay your different tracks.
Uh-huh. You're giving me ideas now. I might challenge you.
Yeah, it's no problem. That's nice.
I'm gonna come and look for you and Jegge and all the other musicians that I have for friends, and y'all gonna help me come up with a CD for 2020
No one.
featuring Rose October with Rose October and friends, and y'all gonna be
Right.
backing me up. How about that? You
That
know?
sounds good. As simple as you sing, it's a possible.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. So I'm wondering, in all that you have done, looking back, do you think that you had an edge as a musician who knew how to read and play music? Because there are so many musicians, you know, in talking about programming the synthesizer and that kind of a thing.
Right.
There are many
Reading is a different
musicians out there.
aspect in terms of reading music.
Yeah, but there are a lot of individual, a lot of great musicians who cannot read music, but they can play.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you had an edge, if you feel you had an edge over others because of your ability to read music, or it
I
didn't matter.
don't think it's an edge
Okay.
because God make a person who is talented, they can read. They could make you a talented, you could read.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't, the only time you have an edge is if you have a gig to back calypsonians or back somebody and they put scores in front of you.
Right. And
Whereas you
that's
can't
really what
hear.
I'm talking
That's the
about.
only that's the only edge. But they have great musicians who could read and great musicians who can read.
Yeah, but hear what I'm thinking,
Mhm.
and you're speaking to exactly what I'm talking about, though. Hear this. I am thinking that, all right, let's say I've been listening to this girl, Sona Jawate, who is the first female choral player from Gambia. I just love her music.
Yeah.
And I was exposed to choral playing by a kora player from Gambia who was on this show, Salyu Suso. And I just love her music. The point that I'm making is like many renowned performers, they travel the world. They don't take the whole band, right?
Right.
They take some members and they carry
Right.
this force with them.
Right.
I am thinking that if I want to be at the ready and able, I probably would get an edge over somebody who can't read music if I can read music. And it was from that perspective I was
Oh,
talking
I
about
see.
the edge.
It's possible. It depends on the situation. 'Cause you may be in a group where a singer might like, you might be our producer
Mm-hmm,
or the arranger for her, and you will always be taken along.
mm-hmm.
And you necessarily read, you just happen to be in a lucky position.
You know, as you're talking, you know what I was thinking too? Maybe even recommendations. I might not be able to read music, but
Mhm.
you know, somebody's gonna say to her, "Hey, when you go to New York, find Rose October because she's good with
Right,
synthesizers, and she comes
right,
looking for me, and I'm familiar with her sound and that kind of thing." Reading the music didn't matter.
right. And like in terms of production now,
Hmm.
n- you, a lot of people may hear like an artist song, they'll ask, who did that? Who is your producer? And then they'll put you on, and there's a lot of work you could generate by that too.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's another aspect of
So, because of the nature of this conversation, Philip,
that. Mhm.
I gotta ask you, tell us what you mean when you say producer
Oh,
along the lines of music.
okay. Producing music. You know, somebody come to you, they want to produce a song. At first, they have a melody, and you tell them, well, sing. Okay, there are certain elements you have to listen for. You could see it visually sometime or in the way the melody run in terms of bar, which will give you the time signature. He'll check for the pitch, the key,
Mhm.
the times, and then you could build your picture like the what type way here, and you start to put on your drums or you put on your keyboards, and then you do your overdubs.
Got it.
You know?
You know, this is new school for me. I want you to know that. So I thank you for the education and not to make light of your work. So let's say that I decide I want a change of pace because many individuals are changing the way that they do things now with COVID-19 and exploring, doing a lot of self exploration, right?
Right.
Let's say that I had some poems written that I now want to turn into songs. And I come to you. You're saying you're going to tell me sing. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So I have to have an idea of what this should sound like. What if I don't know? And this is serious business here.
Well, if it's poetry, poetry
Uh-huh.
is poetry. A song is a song. A song is a melody.
But hold on one second. A
Okay.
lot of songs started off as poetry. I understand that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. But you have to develop a melody. Because song is a melody.
Okay, so I would have to do that as the author
Or
of
work
the
along
song.
with somebody who can, or the arranger
Ah,
or the producer. Because with poetry, I did poetry work, like poetry book, like you put music to that poetry,
uh-huh.
painting a picture to whatever poem you have. I did that kind of work.
Hmm.
But then when you're doing a song is a melody.
Uh-huh.
Sing that song for me, and you can la 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 whatever it is, and that's a song.
So
Okay.
let's say my couple of words in poetry would be something like, and don't laugh at me because I'm making it up
No
now.
problem. Sure.
Something like Sunday afternoon, sitting and thinking as I converse with Phillip Nichols. That's my poem.
Okay. You see the first part you sing? Sunday afternoon, ba da ba da da ba dam.
Sunday afternoon, as I sit and I think, about what I want to say with Mr. Phillip Nichols. Give me a melody there. Sunday afternoon, as I sit and so that's the kind of thing you're saying, that I have to have some idea of
where you want
what
to
it
go.
should sound like. And then you as a producer, you will try and tweak it and say, yeah, that sound right, go this way or go that way.
So, yeah, sometime you can do that.
If not, what? Would you stay with what I'm singing?
No, well, we'll have to improve on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. I'll stick to dancing for as long as these old bones can allow me to do. Phil, I have to ask you though, you know, and I'm learning. I really am learning from you, because as much as I'm a dancer, I mean, we as dancers, we play with the instrumentation too, when it comes to music. And that's as much as I know, in terms of listening to how different instruments in the band or in the song, in the music might be punctuated, and we match movements that way to really align with the music and choreography. Sometimes we go one way and the music goes another way, depending on what is the message that we're depicting in the choreography. I want to ask you though, your buddy Dexter Muhammad, who was on this program before, he made a request, and I guess he knows you better than I do, so I'm going to go with his request. He said, ask Phil to play something classical. So there you go. So let's put Mr. Phil Nichols to the test and see if he is the real deal.
No.
So what are you going to play for us? Classical.
I'll play something.
All right, go for it. And let the choir say amen. Whoa. Love it, love it. You know, Phil, I have to say this, and my friends who know how crazy I am, they wouldn't expect anything different. I mentioned earlier your calm disposition, right? And for folks who don't know you, they're probably thinking, what kind of musician could he be? You know, he's kind of cool. What's going on? And then I ask you to play something. And then there is a slight transformation of your face as you're playing your stuff, and and I'm sitting here envious, really envious. Because you're making it's so easy. It's so well done. It's so soothing. It's you, and your gift shines through. I just want to take pause, Phil, and say thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you for your contributions to our lives, for every piece that you have been a part of. And especially in a time like now, many individuals are locked in and they're listening to music, whether it's calypso, whether it's classical, whether it's, reggae, different genres of music depending on mood. And I really want to take pause in a very serious way and say to you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
too.
you. That was awesome. Um, that was awesome that we got to see you in living color and hear you in living color, and you make it look so seamless. So then it's fitting for me to ask you, Phil, when did you realize? I know that you mentioned when you were younger, you would play something and you can't remember because it just
Right.
happened, right? It just happened because you're gifted like that.
Some incarnation. Huh?
Yeah. There you go. Love it. I love it. I love it. So when did you realize that you were excellent at this thing called music? And I'm giving you permission to indulge that you are excellent.
No, I don't think I'm that excellent. I
I just said
learn every day.
I just said to you, I'm giving you permission right
I
now.
know, but
Okay.
you learn every day. You learn every day.
But
You
this
learn every day.
no, I understand that, and I feel the same way too. I feel that I'm a lifelong learner. That's how we grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, when did you realize that, mm, as an adult, that you have what it takes as a musician?
Mm. Hmm. Maybe in the mid 90s when I started to do full-time music production,
Hmm.
because it's something, the music is like part of you. It's very close.
Hmm.
So I think it's around like 1995 when I decided to work and do music full time.
Was there a significant experience that happened? Was it that you were working with an artist? What?
Mm. During the time, I can't really remember, but I know it's around like nine in the 95.
Okay.
Um, I had to do this,
Hmm.
and being a musician is not really easy, so you have to do extra work to stay afloat unless you got a side gig like you're working for the MT and then you do music on the side and thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
You have to make certain that it works
Hmm.
and do or die.
And I like that because my next question is, so I guess, you're reading my mind. Were you
Mhm.
nervous when you ventured out into your the launching of Phil Glowton recording studio, or you felt you were ready
No,
at the time?
no, because you remember all the bands that I passed through, learning, grasping as much as you possible in terms of the business.
Hmm.
So by that time, at first when I started, it wasn't easy because remember production is you're all new into this thing.
Hmm.
What have you done? So you have to start from some
What
places.
were some challenges you faced when you established your recording studio?
Hmm. Just sometime you do work and in business, you have to keep it a certain way. Anytime you do a production and you give it to someone and waiting for money, it's like once you give them that, you change the power around.
Yeah.
It's a business you just do the work for down payment and at it finish, you keep it straight.
Mhm.
You keep it straight, that's all.
Yeah.
Let's keep it straight.
Yeah, no, I get it. So I guess you've learned the hard way, whereby some
Well,
people took your product and didn't pay.
yeah, but that's blessings for you anyhow.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't hold on to it.
right. But then you learned along the way. That's what you're saying. You've learned along the way.
Mhm.
And
You could feel the good people and the bad people. You gotta come with certain signs. You have to know the signs.
So when a bad person, quote unquote, approaches you, how do you turn them away?
No, well, I say I'll call you back.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and they could be some of the sweetest people too. You know,
Yeah.
for real.
No, no, no. I get it. I get it. I get it. You know, they're presenting as well-meaning
Yeah,
to get the work done, and
mhm.
it's it's a curse, I think, of being in the artist in being in the art and cultural sphere,
To experience certain
because
things.
it's talent is being taken for granted,
Abuse.
abused. Yes, thank you. Abused, rightfully so. And yeah, because folks want to shop your expertise, like if they're going to, you know, the 99-cent store or a bargain store. You know, I'm buying,
Bargain hunter.
yeah, I'm buying 3 dozens of this. Yeah, I know it's $1.99, but because I'm buying 3 dozens,
Stretch my dollar.
you should give me it for like $1.50, you know?
Mhm.
So the talk would be, we're country people, man. We're from the same place. You can't charge me that much. Or we're Caribbean people, man. You can't charge me that. Oh, we're Black people alike, man. You can't charge me like that. That kind of a thing. So I get it. I get it. And I understand that you also have to become protective.
Yeah, but with that kind of situation, you don't dwell too much on it because it's not good. You hope it pass.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
so you look forward for the good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Woo, 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 woo. So around the same time that you established Phil Glowton Recording Studios, your expertise as an arranger and audio engineer was put to work.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that when you established your recording studio, you realized that you had to venture into so many different aspects of the music business.
And types
How,
of music too.
and types of music.
Right.
How
Mainly.
how was that for you though? Because now you're wearing the hat as an audio engineer, and now you're wearing the hat as an arranger. How was this for you while starting a new business, your own business?
Right.
How were these things coming together for you?
Well, I have different modes. You go into production mode, you
Oh,
go into the engineering mode, just mentally, you know,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
mix down mode, where you're doing vocals, you're doing creative.
Mhm.
There's certain like times when like you working on a song, you just do the sequence and you do just the music one day or vocals or scratch vocals
Okay.
and you put on that and then but it's different times you could allot to
Hmm.
mentally deal and where you could focus on
Hmm.
a particular aspect of a production.
So, is there a specific time to complete a project, or it
No,
depends?
it depends on the artist. They have artists that comes up here, like for instance, Sugalos. He will come up for 2 weeks, and I'll have to finish doing the sequencing. That's the building of the tracks.
Okay.
You do backgrounds, you do horns, you do guitar, you do his vocals, and all within a 2 weeks span. And we might do 2 or 4 songs, but still will take time. You have to take time and make certain, you done it right correctly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they have some other artists you work with like for 2 years on a project
Wow.
or a year.
Hmm.
Like the guy Raphael Cameron, he used to be with Randy Muller, which is part of who had owned Brass Construction. I don't know if you ever heard of that band.
Hmm.
There's a Guyanese renowned producer.
Hmm.
I'll work with him. We do like 12 tracks, and it'll take a few months,
Hmm.
quite a few months. So some depends.
It depends. It depends.
Yeah.
No, does that mean that your money is delayed when you're working like that? Or is it that it's and I don't mean to get into your personal
Financial
affairs, but
dealing, yeah.
I'm but I'm looking at the business aspect.
Yeah,
If it's going to turn out to be like a prolonged project because of how the artist works,
right.
would it be wise for me to say then that you have them pay the 100% upfront or 75% or something
Not
like that?
necessary, but you see, I like a person that will work, take the workload is what is important. You have somebody whose production will take a year or so. You have a lot of other people that you're working with, and that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Independent on the old guy that take a mile to walk.
Okay.
You have other people you're working with, clientele, and that's important. Quantity.
When is the busiest time for you?
Hmm. Right now?
Right now?
No, 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 no. I
Oh,
say
you're
right
asking
now.
me. Oh.
Um, I have to say what used to be.
Okay.
Are we in a used to be mode right now?
Right.
That's what we're in.
Mhm.
Um, Summer, you have some coming just before Christmas
Mhm.
and after Carnival, be prior to Carnival too, Trinidad Carnival.
Right. Right.
But right now everything is uncertain, but things still happening.
Mhm. Now you mentioned Sugar Aloes. You've worked
Mhm.
with, oh gosh, you like an international musician, somebody who works with this buddy from there and that buddy from there, and Rose October from Queens. You just laid my piece for my little poetry thingy that you put the melody to. Folks didn't, get it, but you and I got it. I just made my hit just now with your
Right.
but you've worked with quite a few people. And I know that you have this very admirable relationship with Mighty Sparrow.
Right.
And I just smile at pictures I see of the two of you, because it's that kindred spirit I'm feeling. It's that kind of like father son relationship. It's like that brother brother relationship. There's so much that I feel from looking at your pictures there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the foundation of that relationship also is trust, because the two of
Mm-hmm.
you have a long-standing relationship.
Right.
So I want to ask you to play one of Sparrow's pieces for us.
Okay.
All right.
Well, no money, no love, right?
All right. Hey, if you could see your face when you're playing that keyboard,
Yeah.
if you could see your face, man, you're somebody else. I am so I want to have you play all the time. How about that? I want to ask you to play all the time. So, how did you meet Sparrow?
Actually, I met Sparrow through a guy named Jimmy Brown. He was a guitarist at the time with the Sparrow Troubadours. He was the leader at the time, and they had a gig in California. I think it was San Francisco or LA, and I never played with him before. So I had to learn certain songs, and I flew up there, and then is when it started. I think that was the first gig I did with him in America,
Mhm.
and I think that was like in maybe 92,
No,
91.
no, you flew out to LA to play with him for the first time.
Right.
Now, after the gig, what is he saying to you?
Um, I can't remember, but everything started to work out after. I can't clearly remember what had happened.
Hmm.
God, they had another guy who couldn't really fit do the gig, so I
Uh-huh.
just got this gig on a rebound,
Uh-huh.
but I was available.
Now, did you knock out that guy?
No, it's not knockout.
Or did the guy come back for his position then, or Sparrow just stuck with you? How did that work?
Sparrow used to use between me, Frankie McIntosh, a guy named Clow,
Hmm.
and I think one other guy. I can't remember his name,
Hmm.
but for since like 95 to or 94, 92 to presently, I was his primary me and myself and Frankie.
Uh-huh.
If they have another keyboard player, it would be me and Frankie
Hmm.
McIntosh from St. Vincent.
Uh-huh.
A real great guy, keyboard player,
Uh-huh.
renowned.
Wow. Nice.
He's well
And
known. He just got a doctorate, by the way, by the West Indies
oh, nice,
University of the West Indies.
nice, 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 nice. And so that you guys are there now, I'm talking with the talented Phillip Nichols also. So, Philip, what is critical about the work that you have done with the Mighty Sparrow? What would you say?
Working with Sparrow, you have to have a lot of energy and patience because he hears different things that you won't hear. And sometimes you're trying to think what he's telling you is what you're hearing, but it's not what he's hearing. And that's the learning game with him. I always learn everything new from him
Mhm.
because he's been around in this business a long time and he knows different rhythms.
Uh-huh.
Mightn't be able to write it, I think, but he knows it. And just working with him a long time, I've learned a lot.
So, has there been a time when you struggled to pick up something that he's giving to you to make?
Yeah, sometimes he give you things in the studio. You could spend an hour on a cowbell, cook, cook for
Uh-huh.
1 hour. hmm It's
Because he's listening for a particular sound to
and
be
then he will
represented.
come. No, but yeah, but sometimes he come back and he change it so many times to get what he's really hearing now, what is workable. Cause what you're hearing mightn't be workable.
Right, right. And that's the creativity piece there really
Right.
comes through.
So on one instrument, you have to have the patience and the energy.
So then, if you're working that way
hmm
and you're working on instruments, so to speak,
hmm
and I don't know if that's the right lingo, but I'll
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, instrument.
and you're working on instruments, that could turn out to be a very tedious day
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
you're going on for a few hours working on various instruments to get that particular sound.
Right. You work about 7, 8 hours
Wow.
on a song. Not one day. For him, you
Uh-huh.
have to come back, you open the track, work. He's very detailed, very detailed.
So then I have to ask you, with his eye, his eyes and ears for detail, how are you, as the arranger, producer, keyboardist, and all the roles that you're playing in being a part of his music, really fitting in? Are you allowed, um, and I'm using the word allowed very loosely, are
Mhm.
you allowed to suggest, hmm,
Yes,
maybe more?
but mm, yeah, you're allowed to suggest, but it's always interested in how he could hear something and put it the way he's like it, because the end result of it is that he must be happy.
Then I have to ask, has he ever gone with one of your suggestions and he said, you know what,
Oh, sure,
I,
yeah,
you're right?
yeah. He's not self-opinionated, but
No, I'm not even thinking.
from the quantity of work that I did, I
Uh-huh.
can't say no.
Okay.
Uh, I did quite a few tracks for him,
Mhm.
quite a few.
Um, no, you said you've done quite a few tracks for him. Are these original works that you've
Yeah,
done?
yeah,
Yeah.
original. Yeah, all
Um,
this is songs that he will do over. You know,
so we're talking about the legendary
hmm
Mighty Sparrow, right? Also known as Slinger Francis, well, Slinger Francisco, although also known as the Mighty Sparrow.
hmm
Now, when he is redoing these songs, I'm just thinking as an elder in the business. He's redoing his songs. I'm thinking he's looking for a unique and modern flair to them. Would that be safe to say? Or is he looking for a sound that would be appealing to modern day? When you're working with him and he's redoing some of these songs, what do you think he's coming to you with, or he's
I
coming
think
to the world with?
it's mainly sound,
Sound.
sound. Yeah, 'cause you'll do over, let's say, Jane and Dinah back with Art Dakota, then you'll come and do it with Leston Paul, then you do it with Frankie, you know, and different times, always the same song. They have different unique sound and arrangement.
So the bottom line is, though, it's going to be recognizable, not just
Right,
because it's
right,
him, but because people know the music too.
right, right.
So he's not losing the authenticity of his music
No,
at
not
all.
a bit. Mm-mm.
Not a bit. Not a bit. So that's important though, because many individuals, that I shouldn't say many individuals, there are a lot of musicians who change up some of their music and sometimes you don't even recognize it,
Right, right.
so I
Stretched too far.
exactly.
It went over.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I'm so glad. And I think too, if I'm allowed to say this with not having any knowledge about music, so to speak, I think it speaks to maturity and understanding that one's brand is important, through the consistency of how the music is.
Standardized
Yeah,
measurements
there you
with
go.
Coca-Cola.
Yep.
Still consistent.
Consistent. And I think we could say too, that's the
Right.
reason why he stays alive and
Yes,
well in the music industry. How old is he right now?
I think he's about 85.
85 and
Mm,
still doing his thing.
yeah.
And you're right there.
We spoke I think last week sometime.
Okay. Okay. When is the next gig with the two of you?
I don't know. He asked me the same thing because most of the guys the guy that really doing bookings now for him is Lane Stamberg.
Okay.
Lane,
That's the band that he's.
right? He's the guy behind the scenes. But I just hope everything blow over and we get back to work. And that's it.
Mm.
Whatever it is.
So if this is the ticklish question, if someone were to ask him about you as a musician, what do you think he would say about you?
The banners from Guyana, banners. He called me banners.
So he would say the banners from Guyana is what?
Now he said, I know the banners.
And what would he say about the work that you do?
I think he's pretty happy.
Hmm.
I wouldn't know what he would say, but I think he's pretty happy because we have a long history.
Hmm.
And if something and good you wouldn't continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Safe to say.
I was really fortunate to travel with him a lot of places.
Mhm.
Australia. The first time I went to Switzerland, we did dancing show for Eddie Grant.
Uh-huh.
That video.
Mhm.
That was the first time I went to Europe. That was in, I think, 96,
Mhm.
1996. Since then, we've been around. Yeah.
You've gone to Switzerland,
Hmm.
Australia, Sweden.
Denmark, Belgium, Spain. Drive flying into Madrid, and we take a driving from Madrid to Barcelona.
Mhm.
16 hours drive.
Wow.
The music there.
So you've toured extensively
Yeah, with them.
with
Yeah.
Mighty Sparrow.
Hmm.
That's awesome. That is awesome because we're also talking about longevity of relationship
Hmm.
and the trust factor that I mentioned earlier on. I gotta ask you this other ticklish question. Since migrating, which nationalities would you say you've worked with the most?
Trinidad.
Trinidad,
Yeah. Followed by Grenada.
followed by Grenada.
Grenada.
But let me ask you, before you go down the list, you said Trinidad followed by Grenada.
Uh-huh.
Sparrow was born in Grenada.
Right.
Okay, okay, because I think some people think he was born in Trinidad,
No, a Grenadian. But
Grenadian. So mostly Trinidadians you've worked with, and then I have to ask you, how so? How come?
well, I don't know. Maybe the bands that I really had the opportunity of playing with,
Mhm,
Spire Troubadours. Then you had the Sunshine Band.
mhm.
And then they had another Trinidadian band called Brooklyn Connection. I remember there's the first time I even played at the Mother's Day show at Madison Square Garden when they had Charlie's Roots and those kind of bands there.
Mhm.
And that was since like in 80, 85, 86.
Yeah, but you've played around Madison Square Garden, Brooklyn Academy of Music,
It's work.
Symphony Space, Lincoln Center. You've been around and trying to sit over there like the cool cat.
No, no,
You,
it's just work.
it's what?
Work.
It's work.
Yeah.
Give me a job.
Mm.
Give me it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to ask you, what you gonna play for us again? You know,
Ooh.
I'm just taking it for granted now that you're gonna just play something for us. What are you gonna play for us now?
Something for New York.
We'll
Maybe.
take it. Wow. Sunday afternoon listening. And guess what? I wanted to sing, right? But I didn't know the lyrics. So I'm thinking, I'm in the New York state of mind. That's all I know, right? Mm. I'm in a New York state of mind. Can I get some accompaniment there? I'm in a New York state of mind. I'm going to once more. I'm in a New York state of mind. I'm in a New York state of mind. So guess what? I've just made myself a fool, right? Pretending that I'm on the Apollo stage or something like that.
And
But
Sandman is
hey, it's
behind
all
you with
good.
a broom, sweeping you off.
Hey, man. Yeah, listen, there is hope for me. I don't care what anybody says. There is hope for me. I have to ask you though.
Sure.
All right, let me say this first. Right? Phil, I have to say it again because I observe behavior. Man, you were transformed into somebody else when you were on the keyboard.
So you think I'm possessed?
Yeah, it was a good possession too. It was a good possession because
Okay.
you felt it. You felt it, man. You felt it. And it's a gift because I'm sure for folks who are watching and hearing, they felt like if they were taken someplace. It felt like nice, easy Sunday afternoon music, which it is. And I'm so glad that we got you like this live, giving us a piece of you. Uh, Now you have joined Angels Caribbean Band
Right.
as a result of being introduced to the band or to Vinod Bisram, the leader of Angels Caribbean Band. You were introduced to Bisram by the Mighty Sparrow.
Right.
It's like you went full circle.
No,
How
what
did
had
it
happened? They
happen?
had a show. They had a show at the casino, and I think we knew them didn't know I was from Guyana
Mhm.
until Sparrow tell him call Banners. You know, he called me Banners. Then he know well I'm from Guyana,
Uh-huh.
and that's how it started. I started work with them, then they hire me, and then working with them because I really love Indian music.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, I love Indian music.
How is that different though from other genres of music? How, in
Different.
terms of arranging, playing, and all of that? Tell me.
Actually, they use different scales and different beats. Some of the bars might have be two beats. It's be off.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And it's
Does that
much
challenge
different.
you?
Huh?
Does that challenge you? Because I know that as a dancer, I mean, I've been trained in Kathak by the late Philip McClintock, the late great Philip
Okay.
McClintock.
Right.
And I know it's a whole different language, dance language. Is it the same thing for the music?
Musically, by music is the same, but it's a different genre
Right.
and different notation. They use different scales, different, all different stuff, different instruments, tablas and
Right.
dolaks and different stuff.
So your skills are being stretched and used differently
Yeah.
that way when you play Indian music with Angels Caribbean Band, and of course the repertoire of Angels Caribbean Band is vast in
Mhm.
terms of genres of music. I mean,
Right.
talk about a versatile band. Angel Caribbean Band is. I gotta big up, Vinud and Gita and the band, and
Larry Marsden and Gavin Williams, Vakash,
yes,
Shailish,
go ahead, give them the shout out,
um,
man. You know your band members.
Dexter,
Uh-huh.
Remy.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
can't remember the new drummer. They have a new drummer. I can't remember his name.
Okay, but big up to Angels Caribbean Band. Thank you for the community work that you have done, are doing, and will continue to do. It's not just the jump and go down, rump and shake, and it's not that kind of, nope, not at all. I really have to take pause and
Yeah.
give kudos to Angels Caribbean Band
Yeah,
because
we know them guys work hard, man.
yep,
Very hard.
Well, you all work hard.
And you know what I mean? In terms of where he has to do it, like in managing this band, setting up song. I
Hmm.
don't have the strength for that.
Hmm.
Setting up,
Hmm.
and you have to break down.
Hmm.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's 4 jobs there.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very hard.
So you are there are two keyboardists
Hmm.
with Angels Caribbean Band. You're one of them,
Right,
and Vinod is the other.
right.
What is Vinod's expectation of you as the other keyboardist?
Hmm. Mm, I think his expectation, without we discussing it,
Uh-huh.
just to fall in where missing gaps,
Hmm.
to be like the bond in
Okay.
terms of the music. I
Hmm.
think that might be more of his expectation in terms of musical involvement in the band.
How are you all as a band performing music? Are you reading music?
Well, yes, I help out a lot. You know, I have a little thing that I do when you put on a song. I could just write out the scores for the band, so we be on the same page. So it was not that hard. 'Cause if you like something, it's easy. If you don't like something, it's hard.
Mhm. So, in you scripting the
Hmm.
music,
Hmm. Scoring, yeah.
scoring the music,
Yeah.
scoring the music, thank you, sir. Are you able to put your twist on it, or you're still holding on to the originality of the piece that
I
you're
still, because you remember this music is new to me, I still do that. And when I script, it's actually either a song that Gita may sing or Danny. By the way, he's another member of the band, Danny
uh-huh.
Balgobin.
Mhm.
And I just try to keep it straight because I remember this is something new to me and not like songs that I arrange. I could put a twist to it.
So you're scoring the music. Is there anybody else scoring along with you, or are you scoring solely?
And I think I'm the only person, but
What
the band
piece?
is nice. Huh?
What piece have you scored and taken to the band and say, listen, I think this is a good piece for us to do? Not
None.
yet.
No, no, because what happened, as we so busy at home, so whatever is set out for, like if we have a gig and we have a certain set of songs to be done, we focus on that.
Okay.
So I just take care of that and we're running.
I'm gonna throw you right under the bus right now. I hope Vinod is listening. Vinod, let him score something for the band.
What kind yeah.
In talking about scoring something for the band, I'll come back to cool
Long jazz.
yeah, Cool Down Jazz and the other album that you've done. I'll come back to that. But I want to ask you now, you're scoring for the band. Are you able to get involved with arranging and audio engineering per se?
No, Vinod and his brother
Uh-huh.
Vijay, they are mainly, and Vakash is mainly the
For
people
that.
that deals with sound
Okay.
samples and this stuff.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to
No,
hear if, given your expertise with,
no, no. Them guys know what they're doing.
okay, okay.
I'm already busy at home.
You threw that in again. Okay, hint, hint. I got it. I can take a hint. I get it. I gotta ask you,
Hmm.
what is the best moment for you with Angels Caribbean Band?
Oh, I think we had so many best times.
Give me one.
One, musically, I think when we backed this guy Komar Sanu, his music very challenging,
Mm-hmm.
and plus Another time I could give you a second one with Gita. She had a show in, I think, the Queen's Library or Queen's Theater.
Okay.
It's somewhere in Corona Park, somewhere there. But
Uh-huh.
that was a very interesting time.
What was interesting about that show with Gita?
Mm. We had such a interested set of songs and a
Okay.
program
Hmm.
that it entails dancing, choreography, and sound and lighting
Hmm.
together combined. And I remember that.
I have to ask you this straightforward question, and maybe folks are brave enough to ask you, like I will ask you right
Hmm.
now. You're a black man
Hmm.
with a capital B,
Hmm.
playing Indian music with a mostly Indian band.
Hmm.
How are you being received by the public? Are
Well,
you like celebrity? Are people in awe? I'm trying to put words in your mouth here just to help along because it's quite obvious. And I'm wondering if individuals take pause to say, here's a black guy playing Indian music.
they have a few black guys I see, even in Trinidad, that plays Indian music. And it's I don't look for any response from anybody. It's whatever internally I feel.
Hmm.
And like I told you earlier, I love Indian music,
Hmm.
but I do all types of music.
And let me tell you why I asked that.
Hmm.
I mentioned that I have been trained in Kathak. And so, and there are many others of my colleagues who have danced with, again, National Dance Company. And we were trained in Kathak, Afro-Caribbean, African dance, ballet, modern, different styles of dance. And we always got a reaction out of the crowd when this mostly black dance troupe, we had a Dougler, what we call a Dougler, mixture um, of black and of African and Indian girl dancer, Selena Gear,
I think I remember that name.
right? She was the only curly hair girl with us, kind of, sort of, Indian looking. But most others in the company, we were black. And we wore Indian costume, bindi, and everything.
Hmm.
And we went out there, and people were fascinated that we were making music with our feet, know our dip our tukras and all of that stuff, and use the right vocab. And that's the reason I ask you, not to be disrespectful or anything.
Oh, no, 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 no. I
You
don't
you
think so.
you would stand out, especially when you're wearing, the kurta,
Good.
you know, especially, which is, I love the costumes too. When you guys get up, I don't know who is the costume, the costume person for Angels Caribbean Band, man, but you guys really get decked out when you're wearing cultural costumes. So again, kudos. Now, let's talk about functioning in COVID-19 business right now. Generally speaking, due to COVID-19, artists have been exposed to the world through the use of visual platforms. And this means that many individuals who would not have gotten a chance, right, um, to see or hear performances, for example, this one, to
Hmm.
see and hear you, they're now getting the opportunity once they have internet and they could make the connectivity happen. They can really see artists across the board, across around the world. I'm wondering, as an artist involved in multiple projects, Philip, how how have you been dealing with COVID-19?
Um, First of all, I just came back from Guyana about 2 weeks ago, right? I spent a month there. I spent Christmas there. But from last March of 2020, business shut down probably half away. But what was more consistent, I play in church too. And that was more consistent than doing gigs or anything. But I believe if you plant good seeds, God will see you through, or the universe will see you through.
Amen.
So
Amen.
I have no problems.
You know, although you didn't mention it, but you just did. You didn't mention it. It wasn't mentioned in your bio. I'm going to stick it in because you brought it in too. You also play for your church
Yeah,
or for churches.
yeah.
Briefly tell us your contribution as a musician to
Yeah,
churches.
um, just help the choir practice,
Uh-huh.
make certain the notes and correspond with the chords and different stuff.
Mhm.
But most of the recent churches that I've dealt with recently, it's just mainly cover songs that we're doing, nothing original.
Okay.
So,
But that has to be fulfilling, though. You
mhm.
know, it has to be.
In a time like this, it helps your spirit
Oh, definitely.
because you need hope, not hopeless.
Yeah.
You need hope in this time, a vision.
Mhm.
And that was one of the reasons I went to Guyana to get a little rest. God has a very peaceful place most of the time.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, I'm
but
glad that you got an opportunity to
rest.
get away for a month and you were able to rest and come
Yeah,
back hopefully rejuvenated. You know, we all have to find ways of dealing with
with what's going on here.
pandemic. We have to find ways and we have to do our best to stay safe as we enjoy as we continue or we find ways to enjoy the things that bring a smile to our faces.
Mhm.
And you you have, really brought a smile to my face. I don't care what anybody else said. I
What did they say?
Dexter said Philip is being modest. We rely on him for
Mhm.
many genres and covers and all of that. And Kay said, Kay Gray, notice how he doesn't pump himself up? Well, guess what, Kay? I'm pumping him up. And it's that kind of stuff. Or it said, beautiful playing. Miss Jones said, I'm so glad I'm on watching cool Phillip Nichols, that kind of a thing. So I'm saying all of that to acknowledge what they're saying about you. And it's all good things because
Oh
they're
yeah.
echoing what
Yeah.
I am saying and what we are seeing unfolding in front of us. Phil, I cannot thank you enough as we are on the button of 5, believe it or not.
Oh
We
wow.
sat and talked about you. We talked your name, you know,
With me.
for 2 hours. We talked your name with you for 2 hours. And it wasn't even enough because we didn't get through everything, we didn't talk about
Yeah,
your,
with artists that I work with.
there you go. We didn't specifically get into
Gary
this.
Dennis
So
France, Oil
yeah,
Song. Yeah.
yeah, there's so much to talk about, man. And I just want to lift you up and applaud you for the work that you have done and continue to do. I know that you prefer to be kind of behind the scenes, and I appreciate that you took me up on the offer and you came on Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between to have us talk about your craft and how you're making a difference in with the work that you do. So as I bring this afternoon's program to a close, I sincerely thank you, Phil,
Thank you too.
for stopping by
Thank you.
and candidly chatting with us and allowing us to watch you work. The legendary, the masterful Phillip Nichols at work. Yes, I said it. I'm allowed to say it, Phil.
Mm.
So I would like to thank you, Phil.
Thank you too.
Yes. So as I say thank you to today's guest, Phillip Nichols, the legendary musician who is a keyboardist, entrepreneur, arranger, producer, and audio engineer. I would like to go ahead. You can play in the background for me. I would take it. I would like to say thank you to the viewers for joining us today on Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. I must acknowledge some very important individuals. Claire Goring, who did the flyer, who is doing the flyer every week. And you can play in the background for me right now. I will take that, Phil. Marcia Gordon, who's been instrumental in working on the YouTube challenge. Yarsuna Ryan, who's been instrumental in building the website. Dr. Raul Manzano for assisting with hand painting the rose for the logo. And Raul De Silva, who jump-started this program in May of last year and stayed with us until December, after which Samuel Williams, young creative to watch, is the engineer. These individuals are very special because they've unselfishly given up their time and service. So Claire, Marcia, Yash, Dr. Raul Manzano, Raul, and Samuel, thank you. I appreciate you. To all the viewers, to all of you who continue to join us on Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between on Sundays at 3 to 5. Can't thank you enough for spending this time with us. For those of you who will be watching the recording because of time constraints that prevent you from being here live with us, thank you. And the final thank you is to the guest, Phillip.
Thank you.
Who's going to give us a little something before we go. Thank you, Phillip Nichols. And please have a great week. Continue to be safe and see you next time from Arts, Culture, and Thing in Between. I'm your host, Rose October, saying all the best for now. Bye-bye.